Ukraine lies in Central Eastern Europe. It borders with Russia, Belarus, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Moldova. Ukraine has a population of 48 million. The lesson is about the demographic development in Ukraine. The pupils are to list the factors influencing the development of the country's population. The economy and life conditions in Ukraine are not very good. The economic crisis directly affects the natural population growth. Ukraine is currently in a deep demographic crisis. The life conditions of the population are increasingly deteriorating.
Інфляція, безробіття, погіршення умов життя – все це негативно відбувається на життя українського народу.
Out of the 10.8 million children and adolescents under 18 years old, there are over 100,000 orphans and children in Ukraine today growing up without parental care. In the first half of 2002, a total of 25,000 underage children throughout Ukraine were detained by the militia for vagrancy in the cities and countryside, for begging, as well as alcohol and drug abuse, according to the Ukrainian State Committee for Family and Youth. These children should be sitting in a warm classroom, properly fed and dressed, and discussing the crisis in their country. But that was not to be. Deprived of the care of their parents, they are living on the streets. They are street children. My father was murdered. Mother said to me, "Go and earn 50 kopecks for bread." Mother only had 2 hryvnias. We are poor. Mother had 7 children. Why had? Doesn't she have the children anymore? She does. One child died, another is in America, another is in a children's home. 3 children are still at home, and I'm here. Auntie, help me. Mommy needs money for an operation. Daddy's left us. God will repay you. All day long, the children are busy trying to acquire money. Day after day, they face this cruel reality. They cannot as yet understand the cruelty of fate, which has darkened their lives. The deterioration of the living conditions of the people in Ukraine is most keenly reflected on the life of children. This especially affects orphans. Also, the number of so-called social orphans from problem families with drug or alcohol-addicted parents is on a constant increase. Children of such parents are helplessly exposed to violence and abuse and run away from home. In many cases, poverty and social need force one or both parents to entrust their children to the long-term care of grandparents or neighbors and to look for work abroad. Such children often fall under the negative influence of the streets. The results are drug and alcohol abuse, as well as child and youth vagrancy and criminality. I live here in the alleyways and house entrances. I sleep in a clinic in the attic. Doesn't your mother worry about you? Why should she worry? She'll have a drink and call it a day. And your father? I don't have one. Does your mother feed you? She gives me a piece of bread. The rest of the money I bring to her, she spends on vodka. Ivan is 11 years old. He has 3 brothers. The youngest sibling is disabled. The oldest brother drinks and beats his younger siblings. Ivan's best friend is a white rat. I got him from a man down the market, the one who sells animals. Many of the homeless children roam the town markets. Here they can earn something or get something to eat. The militia knows this. That's what the police are called in Ukraine. Sometimes they pick up the roaming children and place them in children's homes. Many of the children have run away from home. Like little Yuri, he runs away from his parents to the next city 200 kilometers away. Now he's just roaming the street markets. Is this the first time you have run away from home? No. Does your mother drink? Now and then. And your father? Yes. Why did they harp on you? Don't know, they just did. Is that why you ran away from home? Yes.
Ти за того пішов додому?
Не плач, не плач.
In the state-run children's homes, the picked-up children are bathed, sometimes the first time in ages, and undergo a medical examination. They are mostly covered with lice. Some children suffer from venereal diseases. In practice, the state structures dealing with the roaming and homeless children are not very effective. At the first available opportunity, the children try to leave the state institutions and go back onto the streets. They do not want to return to their parents. The children often complain about being beaten by parents when the parents are drunk.
Мама водку п'є, і папа п'є. Папа мене ізбив.
My mom drinks vodka, so does my dad. My dad beats me. He forced me to go begging. When I went begging at the church, I managed to bring home 2 or 3 hryvnias. My dad wanted me to bring back 10 hryvnias. He woke me up at 7 o'clock in the morning and sent me off to the church. I ran away. Then I ended up in a children's home. I come from Kolomea. I now live in Belarus. Since September 2000, Caritas Lviv of the Greek Catholic Church has been operating a crisis center, Street Children, in the city. Here, 35 preschool children are taken care of around the clock. These are street children as well as children from so-called problem families. They receive clean clothing and adequate food. This project is supported by the city of Lviv, which has allocated the building for use and come up with the costs for the communal provision of services. The day-to-day costs for the upkeep of the children are covered by donations, especially from abroad. In addition to material aid, the children are also given psychological care.
Психологом у нас працює сестра-монахиня.
We have a nun working for us as a psychologist. The working hours she has left at her disposal are often not quite enough to give the children the attention they need. A lot of work is invested in the children's parents. It is most important to work together with the parents. In doing so, we have received some very good results. There are already 2 families which have been able to place their children in normal kindergartens because we were able to help the parents find work. It is especially important to place younger children in care. The chances of rehabilitating these children are still pretty good. Problems arise when the children have already had criminal experiences. The older children are also prone to running away from home or from the homes repeatedly and landing on the streets once again. These children are called runners. My mom is dead. My dad is in jail. I have an uncle and a grandmother at home. They put me in a boarding house. I ran away from there. It was pretty bad there. The older boys beat me up. We left Dad behind in the Rostov region. That's where we used to live, and that's where we left him. He's a drug addict, and Mom drinks, so that's why I ran away from home. These children want to be free from force and violence, to which they are exposed at home or in the children's homes. They prefer life on the streets to the existence in children's homes or boarding schools. Time and time again, they run away from home, from children's homes and boarding schools, and choose the freedom of the streets. The wretched life on the streets no longer scares them. In winter, I have gone around in a shirt or vest. Then people gave me something to put on. There's a toilet on the first floor. That's where we hide our clothes in plastic bags, in a sort of a storeroom full of cleaning rags. We sit up until the early hours, till about 5 a.m. We get up when the video bar closes. Then we go off together with the militia to the train from Ivano-Frankivsk. That's the first train to arrive. The militia checks out who arrives on it, perhaps drug addicts. We help out now and then, lugging away the drunks. Then the militia give us something to eat, sometimes even cigarettes or money. I get my money on the stairways. Sometimes I steal something from the flats. I sneak into the flats, or I rip off the drunks. Are there any girls here? Yes, they're whores. That's life nowadays. 2 girls were on the train with us. There were also these 2 old geezers there. One said, "Do you do it for money?" One of the girls said, "Yes," and did it with him for 25 hryvnias.
Одна за 25.
Та дитина, якщо вона вже попала на вулицю,
Once a child has got onto the streets and tasted street life, he doesn't feel like learning anymore. He lacks motivation. Was it any different before? Each boarding school was assigned to a factory or business company, and the children received an education. The children knew that after leaving the boarding schools, they would be able to find work somewhere, as a locksmith, for example, and would receive a room in a hostel and later on even a flat. And how are things today? The children leave the boarding schools. Do they have any chance of finding employment? Do they have any future prospects? We see these begging, neglected children everywhere in the large cities of Ukraine, on the streets, at the railway stations, in public buildings and offices. They are badly dressed, dirty, barefoot, and hungry. Each child shows signs of illness or physical assault and battery. With many, we see signs of addiction to alcohol, nicotine, and drugs. Widely spread among the children is the sniffing of glue, which has lasting, damaging physical and mental effects. They sleep at railway stations, in alleyways and house entrances, and cellars, in sewers, or on public sites on bare cement. Their future perspectives are alarming. These children need our help. We must not remain indifferent to the life of street children. Help us to help these children.